Okay, this is video 11, the Kouri Richins trial. This is a continuation. Please go back and watch the video right before this. It should be immediately before this in my profile, because there I'm talking about all the witnesses. I am on Detective Jamie Woody, who was really essentially one of the lead investigators. And so anyway, she's talking about the night that they came to the home, that Eric was found dead. She's testifying, and she says that Kouri told her that they had a shot of alcohol. They were celebrating and they had a shot. Now, by the way, the toxicology reports show that there was a very little, like teeny tiny, less than one like standard alcoholic beverage in Eric's system. So it may have just been a shot. So it wasn't like anyone could say, well, he took this and then he mixed it with a bunch of alcohol. There wasn't a bunch of alcohol. So to recap, what was found in Eric's body was 5 times a legal dose of fentanyl. There was no THC, very, very, very little bit of sign that there was alcohol. And then there was this quetiapine, which was a drug that was prescribed to Kouri. That's what was found in Eric's system. So Kouri says they had a shot of alcohol. They went to bed around 9 p.m. She mentioned to the police, Kouri mentioned to the police, that Eric had been having chest pains. She said that he'd suffered from COVID twice, but that he wasn't somebody who liked to take drugs, right? Like not even the over-the-counter type. And she said she did not mention, she made no mention to police of him ever taking any illicit drugs. So if you thought your husband had taken something and that he'd OD'd on it and the people were there, even the paramedics when they arrived, wouldn't you say, well, you know, he does occasionally pop pills. He may have taken an oxy. Oh my God. Like, wouldn't you have said something? She said nothing about Eric and any of his alleged drug habit when the police or the paramedics arrived that night. And this is pulled directly from a bit of testimony that I found. It said, you know, he'd had COVID twice, but did not like to take drugs. Kouri did not mention street drugs. They asked if anyone told Woody that Eric may have died from an aneurysm, because that was floating around as well. The paramedic or medical person told Woody that. There was no sign of drug use or drug paraphernalia around the house. The garbage cans were empty. Woody asked why. Kouri said her housekeeper emptied them. Woody asked Kouri her housekeeper's name, and Kouri said she couldn't remember the housekeeper's name. Yeah, look at my fucking face. She couldn't remember the housekeeper's name. The same exact housekeeper that Kouri had text messages going back and forth. 800 text messages between January 2022 and March 15th of 2022. 10 to 11 texts per day. But Kouri can't remember her name. Then they bring in Todd Gabler. Now, he's a private investigator that had been hired by Eric's family, and he'd been hired to investigate all of the details for a civil case. Because I'm sure the Richins were like, we think Kouri did something. Maybe Eric may have allegedly been suspicious of Kouri. And so even though the police might not be able to prove it, I think they thought that they could easily go after Kouri in a civil case for a wrongful death suit. So I think that's why this investigator was hired. Now, this guy's got 34 years as a police detective. Like, he knows his stuff. And he says, you know, he went through a lot of things. He read all the text messages. He looked at all the information. He was kind of going through things, and he kind of drew one of 2 conclusions. One, that Eric accidentally OD'd. Or 2, Kouri nefariously slipped him something in his drink. I mean, I'm not a detective of 34 years, but... well done, dude. Nice job. Nice job. Fucking anybody. Anyway. So Gabler's asked about Eric sexting on his phone. And this is the most hilarious thing, because I'm trying to figure out, I guess Nestor thinks because there were text messages on Eric's phone between him and a guy friend, his friend Bryce. And they were like, you know, you're my bitch. And, you know, oh, you know, saying like obnoxious locker room talk to each other, that they were gay lovers. I mean, it sounds like Eric's living a hell of a life, right? I mean, he's a secret drug addict. He's a monster who kills the wrong animals at the wrong time of year without a license. He's also gay, closeted gay, like all of this, really honestly an attempt to victim blame. That's what she's doing. She's trying to make it look like Eric was either a bad man. And by the way, someone came into my comments and they're like, you don't seem to understand. This is a really Mormon conservative area. So even talking about THC and Eric being a regular user of THC makes him look bad to their community. And I'm like, okay. So yeah, that's exactly what's happening. They're trying to paint Eric as the non-Mormon, the bad kid from the wrong side of the tracks. And he was a druggie and a reckless liver, and he was gay, and he did all these other horrible things. And I'm not quite sure, but it sounds to me like Nestor's trying to make the jury think that maybe he just deserved whatever fate he got. Pretty shitty to be victim blaming. But it was today. Today might go down in history as the day that Nestor went off her fucking rocker because of all the things she's trying to pull off. So the first one is that she's trying to get evidence withheld. And this is interviews between Kouri and Detective O'Driscoll. He's the guy, I guess, that interviewed her. There's video, there's transcripts. She's trying to get parts of that redacted. Now, she did succeed in getting some parts of the interview tossed out, but there are other transcripts and things that are going to come in that O'Driscoll is providing, and he's going to admit into evidence when he's on the stand. She also tried to get jailhouse calls and text messages tossed out, including a text message that says, quote, she thought she'd be set for life if he died. That's coming in. That's coming in. Nestor lost that one too. The judge is allowing it. Then the walk the dog letter came back up. Yep, this is that 65-page manuscript that the prosecution wants to present because they think this is witness tampering. They think this is instructions that Kouri wrote to her mother and her brother on how to act on the stand, what to say to the police. That's what they think it is. And of course, Nestor does not want this brought in, and they're not really sure how to bring it in. Remember, because there's certain things, we learned this in the Karen Reed trial. There were all those text messages between Karen Reed and the fat one, Higgins, and they couldn't find a way to get him in. So they called back Nicholas Guarino, and poor guy, because he was the one that did the cell phone dump. He had to read all these really embarrassing text messages because they had to find a way to connect it to bring it in. Well, they're trying to find a way. The prosecutors think they know how to get it in, and they think they can bring it in through O'Driscoll. Lauber's interview with O'Driscoll, of course, Nestor and Laura's trying to get that thrown out. They say that she was influenced by police, and so they don't want, just snippets of it coming in, because that's what the prosecution wanted to do. They wanted to show parts of this interview with Driscoll to validate. This is what Carmen Lauber said in her police statements. But this is 10 hours worth of video and transcripts. So at one point, I do think the defense was trying to call the bluff, and they're like, fine, if you don't just put in tidbits, put it all in, because they do believe that there are points, and there might be, I don't know, I haven't watched all 10 hours, but they believe that there are points where the police were sort of intimidating or influencing Carmen to say things a certain way, like making her promises and those kinds of things so that she would sway their direction. And the defense feels like this testimony should be invalid. But here's what the judge decides. The judge is like, okay, here's what we're going to do. Because the argument was, why can't we put some parts in? We put in our parts, they put in their parts, and then the whole thing can go to the jury, and the jury can watch it all if they want to. But we shouldn't have to sit through 10 hours. The judge agreed. The judge agreed that they're not going to do that. The judge is going to let the state present certain pieces. I guess the defense will be able to present certain pieces. And then they're trying to figure out what they're going to provide to the jury later. I don't know if it'll be all the transcripts, because that might unduly influence them, but it will be a lot of information that will go to the jury, and they can then read through it on their own. At this point, the defense asked for a 2-day continuance, and the judge is like, denied. So then they said, can we have a 1-day continuance? He says, I'll do that. But before we go, they're going to bring back the Celebrate expert, and he just needs to clarify some timestamps, because I think there were some timestamps that said one thing and another set of timestamps that said another, and they were just trying to clarify what time zone Utah is on, and that they do experience daylight savings time, so we can kind of clarify that for the jury, what those timestamps mean. So they called a half day today. I don't know when the continuance is going to happen. I don't know. I don't know. I guess I'll wake up tomorrow and find out if there's a trial. Come back for more.